Uh-oh. Okay, we'll start with this. The latest from Scotney, who places Georgia O'Connor at heart of Madison Square Garden, unification. The death of Georgia O'Connor sent shockwaves across the boxing landscape, offering a tragic reminder of how swiftly a person's life can come to pass. Given her magnetic energy on both sides of the ropes, too, it was not long before a plethora of tributes arrived, keeping the 25-year-old at the forefront of everyone's minds. Among those expressing their love for O'Connor towards the end of the last month was, of course, unified super bantamweight champion Scotney. I've always had a fondness for Scotney's personality whenever she got to show it, which I didn't think she got many opportunities to do over there at Matchroom, outside of whenever she had a fight coming up. Obviously, they would promote it, but you can tell that there's a lot more to Scotney and how she carries herself than just what she does inside a boxing ring, and that is one area where I feel like Matchroom fell short. They didn't display this fighter's persona enough, because she's a very amicable character, very likable. Reflecting on the passing of her friend Georgia O'Connor, the two warriors had, after all, shared a deeply profound 10-year friendship, strong enough for O'Connor to represent the focal point of Scotney's next assignment. It is at Madison Square Garden in New York, where the 27-year-old will take on WBC champion Mercado, wishing to solidify her supremacy at 122. Up until this point, Scotney, who's still only 10-0, has barely even dropped a round, seamlessly going about her business with an almost palpable degree of confidence. Scotney's 10-0 differs from other fighters with that same number of fights. It's very impressive, and I think that gets lost on a lot of people because they're not as familiar with the super bantamweights as they are with some other fighters. For this training camp, her mentality has been put firmly to the test, compelling the Catford technician to overcome each layer of adversity in the gym. It's been very hard, but at the same time, it's made it easier knowing that this fight is not just about me, Scotney told Boxing News. It's been a testing camp, and I feel like in every camp, you get something more out of yourself, but this camp has probably opened my eyes, more so to the mental side of things. There's more meaning to this fight now. Georgia O'Connor's passing has shown me that life is too short. She'd been a very close friend of mine and was someone who'd only just turned 25 years of age. There will be so much more than me in that ring on July 11th. Featuring on the undercard of Katie Taylor versus Amanda Serrano 3, Scotney is gearing up to make her eagerly anticipated MVP debut after signing with the Jake Paul co-founded outfit. Previously, the IBF and WBO champion had encountered a crossroads in her career, unsure as to where the legacy-defining nights would come from. I think that if Ellie were having this exact same fight with this exact same fighter over there at Matchroom, it wouldn't get as much attention. Ellie making the change, that created waves all by itself, to where now there's a little bit more focus on what she's doing and who she's fighting and why Jake Paul signed her. Now it is fair to say that Scotney has gained a fresh perspective on her sport, bidding to dethrone a fighter she has long been gunning for, Mercado. If I look back at the person I was around 8 months ago, it's night and day compared to how she is now, Scotney admitted. It was a trialing time, but I'm just thankful for the timing of MVP coming in. I've been in the dark, and now we're heading to the light, but I've really got to deliver on July 11th.
It's a good thing she knows that.
We're chasing legacy, and Mercado is just a piece of the puzzle. She's got the WBC title, and it's a fight I've been chasing since I was 2 fights in. As a professional, the plan is undisputed, and I'm only 2 fights away from that. I made a promise to my Nan before she passed away that I would become an undisputed champion, along with taking herself 1 step closer towards claiming all the super bantamweight jewelry. Scotney can hardly contain her excitement to fight at Madison Square Garden, and in doing so, realize a childhood ambition. I say it all the time, but I remember sitting on my cousin's floor with a packet of Skittles watching a dodgy stream of fights at MSG, she recalled. To be ticking that off is just massive. My mom's dreading the 8-hour flight, but to be flying my family over and to know it's my hands that have got us there, this is everything.
Getting down to brass tacks, I expect Scotney to win the fight. That's not to say that Yemi Mercado should be taken lightly, because she shouldn't. She's the longest reigning champion at this weight and has many more fights and a lot more pro experience than Scotney does, just not more talent. That's what I think is going to separate them.
X's and O's.
Fundamentals. I think Scotney's got better fundamentals and is a more well-schooled boxer than Yemi Mercado, even though Yemi is quite the physical specimen. Durable, tough, strong, and she's got an engine. I expect her to be quite aggressive with Ellie.
And I expect Ellie to respond. I've grown so confident in Scotney's boxing that I'm convinced she's ready for whatever Yemi throws at her.
Crawford.
I know Turkey is in your corner,
I promise you.
but look, it's
All
going to
right.
be very difficult. He's going to be so mad that day. Believe me.
I see you. I see you. You see I'm different.
I see you too.
You see I'm
I see
different
you.
than all the other
No,
ones.
I see you. No, you don't know different. You're nothing different.
I'm different.
Nothing different.
I'm different.
Canelo says that he knows that Turkey is partial, that Turkey is in Terence Crawford's corner, at least more than he's in Canelo's, which is no secret. We know that Turkey and Canelo did not get off to a good start.
Whereas Turkey and Terence have been getting along more famously for a longer duration of time. They seem to have more of a rapport.
That partiality is understood, but even with that, there's no excuse for Canelo Alvarez to lose. There's no excuse for this fight to even be competitive for Canelo based on what his fans have been saying.
Saying he's going to plow through Terence, outclass him, outdog him, knock him out, all the works.
All this stuff, and because Canelo Alvarez is in fact a more experienced fighter than Terence Crawford for a longer duration of time, not just at this weight, but at this level.
You better be right.
Don't turn to Turkey's partiality as the reason that Canelo Alvarez loses or Canelo Alvarez underperforms. If you're going to acknowledge Canelo Alvarez's career accolades and that he is in fact a great fighter, then you also have to acknowledge that he's under more pressure here than Terence Crawford, under more pressure to perform because he's going into this fight with every conceivable advantage.
He's been at this weight a lot longer than Terence Crawford. He's fought at heavier weights than Terence Crawford for a longer duration of time, on top of being younger than Terence.
And more active, because Canelo has fought within the last 12 months, whereas the night of the fight, it will have been over a year's time since Terence Crawford's last fight. Canelo really has no excuse to lose or underperform.
None.
And I already see some of his fans painting a picture, painting a narrative, that Canelo's the smaller man.
I saw a guy say that Terence Crawford is bigger than Canelo in every category.
Canelo's been at this weight since 2020. What the hell is this guy talking about? So weird stuff these people start to do whenever they get nervous.
That's what it comes from, nervousness. They don't want to admit it, but they're scared that Terence is different from the guys that Canelo has fought so far.
He's better than Edgar Berlanga, better than Jaime Munguia, better than Jermel Charlo, albeit smaller and older, but still better.
Better than John Ryder.
Better than Caleb Plant. These are the guys that Canelo Alvarez has been fighting for the last 4 or 5 years, and there is a legitimate argument that Terence is better than those guys, albeit smaller.
Same way that Canelo Alvarez is better than Callum Smith, better than Billy Joe Saunders, than Caleb Plant,
albeit smaller.
What the Canelo Alvarez faction of fans are afraid of is that the same applies to Terence, that he might be better than Canelo, albeit smaller.
And I try to view this thing through an impartial lens because I'm a fan of both fighters, and I'm genuinely intrigued by the fight. Really don't know what's going to happen, though I can't help but notice the reactions that are coming from one side of the aisle, what looks like nervousness to me. My previous video, we talked about how Terence Crawford didn't want any weight stipulations that might impede Canelo's ability to perform, didn't want a rematch clause.
He said that he wanted him at his best, so nobody can make excuses afterwards.
Some of these guys in the comment section must have had sugar daddies in their ear because they heard something else. They start carrying on about how Canelo is the A side, Terrence is the B side. He's in no position to make those demands. You didn't understand the question.
Or the answer.
It was never about whether or not Terrence Crawford could demand those things. It was why he didn't want them.
It was so that guys like you can't make excuses afterwards, if he wins.
Somehow you missed that it was about Terrence's mindset, not who the A-side fighter is. We already know that. You only bring that up as some sort of consolation to cope with your nervousness.
Yes, Canelo is the A-side, and not only is he the A-side, he's the more experienced fighter at the weight, the younger fighter, the naturally bigger fighter, and he's the A-side.
All of which puts pressure on him to deliver. There's no reason for him not to. He has every advantage. You don't mind when I say that about a fighter like Gervonta Davis when he's fighting naturally smaller fighters that are moving up. If I say that about Canelo and Terrence, all of a sudden, I've given Canelo a lot of consideration for the knockouts that he didn't get because he was expected to knock out Jermell Charlo. He was expected to knock out Edgar Berlanga.
You know, Jermell Charlo spent the whole fight running away from Canelo, just like William Skull. Edgar Berlanga did the same thing, but he was basically a cruiserweight in there.
Had to be about 200 pounds or close to it, to where if Canelo didn't knock those guys out, I kinda understand.
I get it.
But under these circumstances, there is no real reason, no excuse to underperform. There's pressure on him. There's gonna be. And you can't cry him a river about how Turkey is partial to Terrence Crawford when that shouldn't matter if you knock him out.
So it doesn't matter what Turkey likes or who he's partial to if you take it out of the judge's hands.
You're getting mad, I'm saying that Canelo has certain expectations set before him based on the circumstances of this contest.
Tough titty.
How the hell else are we supposed to talk about this fight if we don't mull over the facts of the matter?
As I said last week, I hate Tom and Jerry's kinds of boxing. I am sure they will deliver for me smashing face and blood, and this is the boxing. I don't want to force to be having ring 12 by 12 or something like this, to have something like this big fight. We assist to have it in Vegas because Vegas is the capital of this, the capital of the boxing, and their fans and for all the fans around the world to see it in the perfect time.
Those comments from Turkey Alalshikh have elicited some reactions from the boxing media. Veteran boxing scribe Sean Zattel said for years, I've heard and seen so many fighters stick their fingers in fans and media's faces about not understanding the sweet science and treating fighters as pieces of entertainment. Now, you've got a guy trying to get the Ali Act repealed, and he says this. Where are they?
That rhetorical question is aimed towards Turkey's comments.
I would answer Sean's question by saying that don't get too stuck on things that fighters say.
Fighters say a lot of things.
They don't like being objectified or viewed as pieces of entertainment, pieces of meat, bodies to put in the ring. But how else is the audience supposed to view them? Are we all gathered here today to know what your hobbies are and what your username is on Call of Duty?
Or are we here to watch you beat up a guy or get beat up by a guy?
You tell me, are we all gathered here today to know whether or not you like KFC, Popeyes, Roy Rogers?
Roy Rogers? Haven't heard that name in a while.
In-N-Out, Whataburger? Are we all gathered here today to know these things, or are we here to watch you beat up a guy or get beat up by a guy?
You know the answer.
Pull up to the drive-thru window of a local McDonald's, and it's not so you can find out what the teller's favorite movie is.
It's their favorite song on the radio.
To where when the fighters in the sport of boxing, which is a brutal sport by the way, start moaning about being objectified, it's an occupational hazard. We're not here for any other reason than the brutality.
Simple as. And the audience doesn't have to apologize for that.
Because you don't have to box. Nobody in the audience put a gun to your head, made you sign a waiver to become a boxer or take on a fight, or none of it. You do all of this of your own volition, and you're not even doing it for us. You're doing it for your bank account. So stop presenting yourselves as soldiers or municipal servants. It's a dangerous job, but you took it on.
We didn't make you.
When we pay to see it, when we pay our hard-earned dollars for a monthly or annual subscription and whatever it costs to purchase a pay-per-view.
We're customers.
Customers have the right to give a product review. You don't have to be an actor or a director yourself to watch a movie and decide whether you liked it or not. You don't have to be a chef to go to a restaurant and decide whether or not you like the food there.
You're a customer. You got the right to give a product review.
Once you spend your money, you talk about them repealing the Muhammad Ali Act.
So fucking what? They've been finding ways around the Ali Act for years.
Are you kidding me? When Isaac Cruz first rejected the Ryan Garcia fight at an estimated value of $1 million to Isaac so that he could box on undercards for 2, 3, or 4 fights, that was a violation of the Muhammad Ali Act. Whoever told Isaac to reject that offer so he can fight on undercards for smaller dollar amounts instead?
Those are the kind of practices the Ali Act was intended to prevent. And that happened right in front of you.
And when the fight came back around and it was offered to Isaac, and he ends up fighting on an undercard against Angel Fierro instead,
For less money.
he would have made a lot more dropping the Angel Fierro fight, going into the Ryan Garcia fight that would have been a main event and would have made him more money. This is the kind of stuff the Ali Act was intended to prevent. When Wilder rejected the DAZN offer that he said would have got him more money to box AJ than what he stood to make boxing Fury, same thing.
And who advised him to do that? Al Heyman advised him to do that, even though it constitutes a violation of the Muhammad Ali Act. Al Heyman himself
Been violating it for years when both Adam Kovnowski and Luis Ortiz turned down a multi-million-dollar offer to box Anthony Joshua so they can box on smaller shows for less money instead.
Same thing.
Let's put our violins away, please, about the Muhammad Ali Act, because it's not foolproof and it never was. The people in boxing, especially in America, have been finding ways around it all the time.
Especially in America. Outside of America, it's not even a thing.
So why do people keep bringing up repealing the Muhammad Ali Act when it comes to Turkey Alalshikh? It's because of the insulated nature of TKO boxing, that they basically want everything to be in-house. They want to manufacture their own belt, govern their own ranks,
Which to some people constitutes a conflict of interest.
people that don't seem to pay attention.
You're worried about a conflict of interest? Look around. Al Heyman has been acting as both a promoter, a manager, and an advisor for years.
Look at Samson Lukowicz. 1 minute he's a promoter, the next minute he's a manager.
Look around.
To where if conflicts of interest are what bothers you, Turkey Alalshikh and TKO would be the least of your worries.
It's virtue signaling, if it's anything at this point, to be complaining about something like this.
All of a sudden, you're worried about conflicts of interest in the sport of boxing. That's a goddamn joke.
Now, for any fighter that's worried about Turkey's hardline stance against runners,
That style of fighting, if it bothers you that much, then don't fight on his shows. God only knows you don't have to. It's more of an opportunity for you than it's an opportunity for him.
nobody's putting a gun to these fighters' heads to fight on Turkey shows.
It's more of that trademark victim culture that you see in the West. Turkey's stance on runners and that style of fighting is not exclusive to Turkey Alalshikh. I mean, Rigondeaux's performance against Casemiro is the reason that Showtime never brought him back.
Because he was running.
When Shakur Stevenson is getting booed for 36 minutes in his own city of Newark, New Jersey. I mean, what is it going to take for it to register with you people that most boxing fans don't like that style?
Stop being a hipster for a minute and pay attention. It's always been that way.
Even if you yourself can appreciate the subtleties of that style, most of the time, most of the boxing community doesn't like it.
It's the truth.